Hello, everybody, and welcome back to No Trailers Allowed, my movie and streaming show podcast where I do not watch trailers beforehand. I'm your host, Jersh. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find more episodes by visiting my website, superjersh.com. You can get this podcast early and ad-free by supporting me on patreon.com/superjersh. You can now watch the video version of this podcast on my main YouTube channel, youtube.com/superjersh. I'm sorry if it upsets you that I talk about movies as well as music, but I put too much hard work into these movie discussion shows for them to just die on a channel that nobody wants to subscribe to. So I've got to combine it there. As well, or as such, my social medias for No Trailers Allowed, my movie discussions, are going to be my primary superjersh socials. So twitter.com/superjersh, Instagram also @superjersh. To email me about movies to be a part of the show with your questions, comments, and suggestions, that email address is still notrailersallowed@gmail.com. I want to also remind people that I do online game streaming as well. I now have a dedicated YouTube channel for gaming that is simply called Jersh Plays. So now YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram are all at Jersh Plays. If you are a video gamer, you can find that on a separate channel. I'm going to keep the gaming separate. It's its own special thing. I want to welcome new patron Jenelle. Thanks for checking out the Patreon. Thank you, Patreon executive producers Mirrors, Triss, I Love Manatees, and Daryl. Thank you, legendary Patreon producer Zelbinian. On this episode, I'm going to talk about Nightmare Alley. Seeing as how this is a relatively brand new release, I am going to do a spoiler-free discussion at the top, and then I will go into some spoiler thoughts with a healthy spoiler warning later. So no spoilers to worry about right now. I haven't even seen the trailer for this movie, so I don't know what was given away. So I'm going to be very brief in kind of the plot and setting that I give away, and then I'll just talk about my overall thoughts before actually getting into some spoiler-specific details. So Nightmare Alley was directed by Guillermo Del Toro and stars Bradley Cooper, Rooney Mara, Cate Blanchett. Who else is in this movie? Stephen Jenkins is in this movie. I guess I won't go over I don't want to go over the whole cast in case it's a surprise that some people are in this movie. But yeah, Bradley Cooper, Rooney Mara, Cate Blanchett, Toni Collette, I would say, is the other one that is a main character. And apparently it's based on a book that was made into a film in the 1940s or 50s, also called Nightmare Alley. And to my understanding, this is Del Toro focusing on making a film adaptation of the book. It is not a remake of the previously made film version of the movie. And what I can say in the spoiler-free section is that Bradley Cooper is the main character, and the film takes place at a carnival in the late 1930s, early 1940s. Similar to like old HBO shows Carnival or the beginning of Oz the Great and Powerful, the Wizard of Oz sequel from a few years ago. It is very of that time and place era. And it's kind of about, the characters that Bradley Cooper meets in this carnival and the tools and tricks that he learns from people there and how he kind of applies it in his life. And that's really all I'll say. And that's, that's even more than you need to know. Around here, I say no as little as possible going into a movie so that the story can speak for itself. I still have not seen the trailer for this movie, so I don't know, again, what they gave away. But I will say that I absolutely I loved this movie. I couldn't believe how much I liked it, how much fun I had watching this movie. It is a little light on plot, and I'm a very plot-heavy person. I want twists and turns and all kinds of flip the story on its head moments to happen, and that's not the focus. This is a very character driven story. Who is Bradley Cooper? What is his past? What are his goals? What is he trying to do? What do the people around him want from him and expect from him? And what are the kind of drama and stakes that can build out of whatever personal goals all of these people in this kind of carnival era are chasing. And so, uh, even though it did not have a particularly complex plot, it was a very engaging movie, and it is, man, it's good. It was really good. The performances were incredible. I really loved Bradley Cooper. I've said before in some of my music reactions and some other like game live streams, and maybe even some prior podcasts before this, that Bradley Cooper is fu pretty. Like he won the genetic lottery. He's a good looking guy. And so it's easy to like see him at face value, make assumptions about what you know about him and what his life has been, and maybe just assume he got where he is because of his looks, and looks matter in entertainment, in music, in movies. It's visual mediums. We want to see attractive people in that space. So that's just kind of a given. So beyond that, his talent as an actor and as a director has really blown me away in this last decade. Like Silver Linings Playbook is really when I started to take an interest in him. I can't believe how old that movie is now, but just seeing how good he was in that role, and then he also was actually really good in a movie called The Place Beyond the Pines, which I don't think a lot of people watched. I love that movie as well. The Place Beyond the Pines is one of my all-time favorite movies. There's a short list of movies that actually like make me cry, and that's one of them. Especially the first time I watched it, I almost couldn't get through it, which is crazy for me. But yeah, so watch The Place Beyond the Pines if you've never seen The Place Beyond the Pines. Don't look into anything about what it's about. Just watch it. Trust me. Um, and so yeah, from Place Beyond the Pines on, I'm in whatever he's doing. I'm interested in because he's a really good actor. He does, I make the joke about other movie stars or about other actors that like they're not really actors. They're just movie stars. They are playing themselves, their natural charisma in A role, B role, C role. Like they're always the kind of same. You know what I mean? Like I would say Tom Cruise now is more of a movie star than an actor. Like you want to go see a Tom Cruise movie to see Tom Cruise do stunts, personal life aside. Um was George, I don't know, George Clooney, wasn't he kind of more of a movie star? Did he ever lose himself in a role, change his dialect? Did you ever think you weren't looking at George Clooney? I don't know. I mean, Emma Stone, obviously I've said I'm not a really big fan of hers because she's just kind of Emma Stone and everything. But you get your Kate Winslet, your Meryl Streeps, your Daniel Day-Lewis's, your Christian Bales, people that your Joaquin Phoenixes change their dialect, change their speech pattern, change their body shape and form, change their mannerisms. They really get lost in trying to create this fictional character, and I would count Bradley Cooper among them. I think that he does a really good job of trying to have a different mannerisms, different flow in body, and he uses his wardrobes to great strengths. When you think about A Star Is Born and how kind of gangly and country rock and loosey goosey he was as kind of like this alcoholic rocker, but then you see him in Nightmare Alley, and he has kind of like this big, broad build, which is helped in no small part to the amazing cinematography, which I'll talk about in a second. Um, but yeah, his dialect here in his kind of southern draw is its own thing. It's not redoing A Star Is Born. It's not kind of a stereotypical thing. It's kind of its own sort of speech pattern. And yeah, I almost said something that is not. It's not really a spoiler, but I'm very spoiler averse. So Bradley Cooper was great. I thought Rooney Mara was great for what she had to do as well in the movie. I don't know. I'm not a fan of hers, but I'm not against her either. I haven't really seen enough of her work. I saw her in A Ghost Story, and the way that like she ate that pie was just like really weird and slow and kind of silly. And so I've kind of anytime I see her, I'm like, I hope there's pie in this movie. Like I just can't help. I can't. I have that thought. I can't help it. I think I also saw her in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo remake as well, which was fine. But as I've said in the past, the original was way better, and my favorite things that to come out of that Dragon Tattoo remake was the Trent Reznor cover and the opening sequence of that movie. Everything else I just kind of was fine. Uh, Toni Collette is really great as the character that she portrays, which she's just a member of the carnival troupe that I won't give away what she does just in case the trailer doesn't give it away, but she's great. Kate Blanchett is great. I won't yeah, I don't know what the trailer gives away again. So I'll say that Kate Blanchett. I mentioned in my Don't Look Up review that the veneers really bothered me. In this movie, she wasn't wearing veneers, or at least if she was wearing veneers that were like a real life expected. So now I'm 100% confident that the veneers in Don't Look Up were a character choice because somebody on television always pressuring themselves to look their absolute best is going to cross the line and go into kind of fake non-humanistic territory where the teeth are so fake they almost look like they're out of a cartoon. I definitely think that was a choice now in that movie. Again, here Kate Blanchett is one of those people that is a genuine actor and not just a movie star. She um, can do different accents and different again, just different. That's what I'm looking for. Postures, body movements, things like that. Now, of course, um, she has this kind of classical, timeless beauty that I do feel like gets leaned into a lot. I think she does a lot of period piece movies because she has this kind of these timeless features about her. That's just a passive, off the cuff observation, potential observation. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like I just see Kate Blanchett in period piece drama, period piece drama, period piece drama a lot. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But the performances are really fantastic in this movie across the board. And I'll talk about some other characters in more detail in the spoiler section. The cinematography is so beautiful in this movie. 90% of the movie is shot at like waist high or lower. Everything is a low angle, angled up to make Bradley Cooper look towering, to make the world seem massive. And I'm wondering if that's because when you are a member of a carnival troupe and you are, and again, The Greatest Showman, this is not. The Greatest Showman is like really, the family friendly kids version of what a carnival character might be. This movie, is not that. Um, but I wonder if if these carnival characters, and again, this doesn't give away anything. I'm making a guess. If if they felt like they're always looking up at the world is always looking down on them, and the world always seems bigger and more unsurmountable to them and to Bradley Cooper than it does everyday people. I'm very curious. I will, after, once I record the review process, I'm like spoiled away. I'll watch interviews, I'll watch trailers or whatever. I try to go into the movie and my thoughts about the movie as clean and cut off as possible. So maybe Guillermo Del Toro has commented about the cinematography choices, but I'm curious myself why there were so many low angles. Because I noticed it constantly throughout the movie. The costumes, the set design, the color palette, it reminded me of Shape of Water. I guess I'm kind of a sucker for 40s and 50s art deco. The BioShock, Fallout, Shape of Water, Nightmare Alley. Like, I do absolutely love the art style of that time period, and I do absolutely kind of romanticize it a little bit. That old timey, Beyond the Sea, If I Didn't Care, those old songs really get a response out of me and really pique my interest. And what I love um, about the Del Toro movies in that art style, I would say The Shape of Water and Nightmare Alley shared similar art styles, is just kind of how he presents them. You know what I mean? It's not glossy. It's kind of it's a darker, gloomier, slightly nihilistic, but also just plainly realistic, if not heightened realism version of what that time period could look like. So the costumes were amazing, the hairstyles were amazing, the vehicles, the buildings, just everything about it. It's just beautiful to look at, and like I said, visuals matter in a movie. The lighting as well. There's some beautifully lit scenes in this movie, both at nighttime and in the daytime, interior and exterior. Gorgeous wide shots, insanely personal close-ups. There's just a lot to enjoy. Um, as far as like any nitpicks in the spoiler-free section, like I said, it was a little light on plot, and I will say, and this doesn't give anything away, but it it kind of follows. Here's what I'll say: a big chunk of the movie felt like backstory character development, so that the portion of the movie that did have plot could make sense. It almost felt like Guillermo Del Toro like is feeling the pressure and understanding the world changing in these types of visual entertainment mediums that we enjoy, in particular film and television. And I've said, to me in my life as I've grown up and as I've grown accustomed to streaming in the modern age, movies have become less believable for me and move too fast for me. Characters go through changes, make decisions, have change of hearts almost instantly on a dime, like it's the Truman Show. Whereas when you get these long form, short term series like Mayor of Easttown, like Queen's Gambit, like The Leftovers, where you can spend time with characters and believably and compellingly watch them transform and shape their worldviews and their decision making, that is like a really rewarding experience as a viewer. And so I feel like Guillermo del Toro, it's like a 2.5 hour movie. I think he really wanted to get as much as he could out of character building and character attachment before the plot started to go forward, right? This is like, I don't know, this is not a one-to-one example, but the structure of the movie made me think of Batman Begins, starring Christian Bale, directed by Christopher Nolan. Because like the entire first hour of Batman Begins is like making Batman, building up Batman, right? Where it's like you get the backstory of him training with Liam Neeson and going to the League of Shadows. And again, spoilers for a 15-year-old movie. We are all old now. And then after you finally build up Batman, then finally like the last hour and a half is like a Batman movie. But the first hour of Batman Begins is like a prequel or a backstory or again, like, an origin story. And so this movie, again, it's not a one-to-one. This does not spoil anything. I wouldn't ruin the movie for you. But it felt that way where it was like there's so much time character building and not a ton of plot, but that structure kind of worked because once things start to excel and progress in the back half of the movie, as all movies do, I did feel the character development was there and I was believing how people were acting and what people were saying and how things were transpiring. And it was just so rewarding. And I can't recommend it enough. I hope that if you do listen to this and you just wanted to check out the spoiler-free section because you were worried about it, that you do go into the movie without watching the trailer, without looking up anything else about the plot and what it's about. I have a feeling, I can see the trailer being built from the memorable scenes of this movie, and I just have a feeling that that's all of them. You know what I mean? So I watched it on HBO Max. Apparently it is in movie theaters somewhere. I didn't even know it opened. Apparently it opened theatrically in December. I had never heard of this movie. I saw some people on film Twitter mentioning Nightmare Alley is out now. And I honestly, because I had never heard of it and wasn't even aware it was being produced, I almost thought it was a gag. I thought it was another Super Bowl thing because Arnold Schwarzenegger promoted a fake BS Zeus poster that I got all excited and I thought I was going to see Arnold Schwarzenegger play Zeus, and it's just a stupid Super Bowl commercial ad, it turns out. And so I thought that was this too. So I loaded up HBO Max, and sure enough, it's a real movie. And I was like, okay, let's watch it. I really, really, really highly recommend checking out this movie. Especially, if you have HBO Max, it's a no-brainer. It's gorgeous. The story is interesting. The time period is compelling. The cinematography and the lighting is it's a gorgeous movie to look at, and it's a wonderful story that kind of envelops, even though it is a little bit simple. So, I would rate this probably at like a 9 or 9.5. I have very few problems with this movie. I really enjoyed it. That's going to do it for the spoiler-free section for my thoughts. I want to share a few thoughts on some of the plot developments and spoilers that are revealed in this movie right now. Did you know if you support me on patreon.com/superjersh that you can get this podcast early and ad-free? You probably didn't know that because you're listening to this promotion right now, which means you also probably didn't know that there are dozens of hours of Patreon exclusive content over there, like full album music reactions and full movie watch-along commentaries. So head on over to patreon.com/superjersh to help the music and movie discussions continue. Full spoiler warning for the movie Nightmare Alley, which was just released a couple of weeks ago in theaters and now on HBO Max. If you haven't seen the movie, I say again, I really recommend watching it. I am going to talk spoilers about the movie now. So I'm extending just a little bit more for video watchers and audio listeners in case you were doing something else and you wanted to pause it. Now your spoiler warning is done, so now I'm going to talk about it. So Bradley Cooper, which again, I always refer to the actors as like their performance names just because it helps me keep the character straight in my head. I don't know. Anyway, so Bradley Cooper, the movie opens with him burying a body and burning a house, and you have this kind of question in the back of your mind of like wanting a curiosity, wanting an answer to that. Thankfully, the movie does pretty much answer it. It unfortunately isn't a big surprise. I thought there was going to be some big twist that like somebody else had been murdered and he was helping a friend try to not get in trouble and he was going to ultimately be this good guy. But yeah, the character Stanton Carlisle that Bradley Cooper plays is what I love about the character is he's not all good and he's not all bad. He clearly has some sort of moral compass where if you do hard work, you deserve good things, and if somebody's paying him money, then they're the ones in charge. The almighty dollar, is what he kind of worships as a means of survival. Yeah, anyway, it turns out that he did kill his dad and bury him and burn the house, just like the movie kind of instigated. There wasn't any big surprises there, or insinuated, rather. But well, I thought it was really interesting how he killed his dad, basically through hypothermia, through sickness and disease, because of the time that it was. He just made his dad sit in front of a cold window until he got sick and died. It was really fucking kind of a brutal. It was an original, non-violent, difficult to watch kind of murder scene, in my opinion, and I thought it was really well done. And then understanding, and again, it would have been really easy for Bradley Cooper to treat this character like the character he played in A Star is Born because they both have interesting conflicts with alcohol, which I like to see. I think that I do think substance abuse is glamorized in the world of entertainment and in the world of film. And so as many new and interesting ways that we can show the harmful effects of these different types of substances, like when abused and when used to the extreme, and in some cases just when used on a daily basis as a part of like a long form life, the damage it can do to your body, like I think that's interesting. And so just him just being a character that says I don't drink, don't touch the stuff, and actually being like really dismissive of it because of his history, I really enjoyed that. And then when he finally did give in because of the Kate Blanchett character, the psychologist, I thought I didn't feel betrayed by the character choice. It felt like it had been leading towards that because his ego had been built up. He thought that he really had the Kate Blanchett character pegged. I'm getting ahead of myself. But anyway, so he kills his dad, goes to the carnival, and basically, again, this movie feels like two movies. I said it in the spoiler-free version that it kind of follows a Batman Begins format. I mean, it goes even further than that. It kind of feels like two movies with a specific part one and a specific part two, thanks to the time jump that happens in the movie, which I was not expecting at all, and I really appreciate it. I think time jumps in general are an underutilized plot device that movies should rely on more to get believable reactions and responses from me as a viewer as it pertains to the comparison to the long form television series that I mentioned a little bit ago. I think with a time jump, changes are more believable in character development and in thought process because time has passed, right? You can shortcut it. Anyway, so the first half of the movie is Bradley Cooper basically learning how to be a carny, learning how to be a grifter, and learning how to read people from David Strathairn, who I love, who was again great here. What a long, wonderful career David Strathairn has had, and I really love seeing him on the screen. Him and Toni Collette played a great character, or played a great couple, a kind of believable, what's the word I'm looking for? Not art house. A bohemian, free-spirited kind of couple who, slightly believe in the mysticism, but also understand that it's all just tricks. And he's a drunk, and she kind of fools around with Bradley Cooper. And I got the feeling that like David Strathairn probably even knew and just didn't care because that's how strong their relationship was, that he didn't think anything serious would happen between them. I don't know, but I definitely got the feeling that they actually loved each other because especially of how Toni Collette reacted when David Strathairn died. And I loved how I loved how the movie set up that there's like a poison box and a drink box with the Willem Dafoe character, and uh, how it's very obvious that Bradley Cooper gave him the bottle and that's how he died. But the movie, it doesn't explain it away with exposition. It doesn't dwell on that fact. It just knows that you get that fact as a viewer, and it makes you wonder: did he do it on purpose or was it actually an accident? Because he's a smart guy. He's an inquisitive man, the character, and he takes in all this information about the world around him, and he gets pretty much everything almost always perfect. So isn't it a little unbelievable to accept that he would have made that mistake? It really kind of felt like it was maybe on purpose. I don't know. It's ambiguous, and ambiguous in a fun way, not a lazy way. So he learns all these tricks, and Willem Dafoe is so awesome. He's so grimy and sleazy, and just goes for it and doesn't give a shit. You know, the movie opens with the geek, the is it a man or is it a beast? And it's just a human. It's just a guy depraved, addicted to substances, and that substance addiction is weaponized against him as a means to control his life and take away his humanity, which will come back later in an awesome way. And so Bradley Cooper starts to form a romantic relationship with the Rooney Mara character and butts heads with Ron Perlman, as the older guy who promised he would look out for Rooney Mara, and Ron Perlman is great in this movie too. All of the characters are great. It felt familial, it felt like a community, and it felt believable, kind of in a way that like these movies sometimes don't. And kind of the natural progression of Bradley Cooper joining and climbing up the ranks and earning trust and kind of saving the carnival when that sheriff comes to town and really winning people over and coming into his strength as a grifter and as a carny and as a performer. I thought that was just all beautifully paced and extremely entertaining and compelling to watch. And I did, as a plot person, I kept wondering, okay, you're a grifter, and then what? Okay, you're a grifter, and then what? Like, what is going to happen? And just as I started to wonder if the movie was going to go anywhere, we get the time jump. They leave the carnival. It's 2 years later, and now it's like we're in the plot of the movie. The first hour was, here's a believable way that he could get all these tricks, that you would trust that he's a charlatan, that you would trust that he's charismatic enough to pull off a crowd in a big city, and that you would trust that Rooney Mara would trust him to go along with the things that he says because of the relationship and kind of storybook romance they have in this kind of dark carnival. I loved all of that. I'm trying not to just like go through the whole movie, but I can't help it because I really liked a lot of it. So then in the second half of the movie, we get new characters, a new world with Stephen Jenkins and Cate Blanchett. And Cate Blanchett is this sort of psychiatrist who tries to call Bradley Cooper's bluff and fails. And Stephen Jenkins, what's the name of the character that he plays? Ezra Grindle. Stephen Jenkins is a freaking treasure. If you don't know who that actor is, he was also in The Shape of Water. He's also in I Heart Huckabees. He's also in Cabin in the Woods. Stephen Jenkins is a phenomenal actor. He plays John C. Reilly's dad in Step Brothers, which is funny because Mary Steenburgen is in this movie in a really small role, and she played Will Ferrell's mom. They played parents and Step Brothers together. Now here they are, 14 years later, and it was really great to see Mary Steenburgen again. And what a dark, tragic ending for that couple. And again, the movie kind of talks about the spook shows, lying to people, just saying things that make them feel good, even if it's not necessarily true, and how dangerous that can be, and how false hope can be this very negative and nasty and detrimental thing. And people try to warn Bradley Cooper about this throughout the whole movie, but he doesn't finally understand it until it starts to happen in the culmination of the film. But yeah, I really, I also thought of like the movie Leap of Faith from the 90s with Steve Martin. I thought of like big time evangelical bullshitters in the modern era who, in my opinion, are selling people a lie to be millionaires because the uncertainty and fear of the unknown after death is so within us as self-aware and conscious creatures that it's easy to exploit that fear because it's the greatest. It's a great fear that is universally shared by basically every human being because humans are the only living things that know they're going to die. So of course we're going to imagine no, we don't. um, and so it really what I also loved it kind of about the story arc and about the Bradley Cooper character arc is in the first half of the movie you kind of like him. He's this helpful guy. He's a brawly guy. He does what he's told and he helps bring positive things to the world. He makes the carnival better. He saves the carnival. He gets Rooney Mara out of there because she's better than this and gets her into a better life. But then that all kind of takes a turn when he meets the Kate Blanchett character. So he reveals some more truth to her. And I loved how we learned the backstory of his character and how that information was revealed through the conversations with Kate Blanchett. It was a really good use of dialogue and exposition to share things with other characters in the movie and with the audience. I liked that setup quite a bit. Um, anyway, so Kate Blanchett refers him, helps him get some dirt on some of her patients so that he can help to better assist him in his grift, which Bradley Cooper thinks again the movie is also about the predictability of people, like how predictable your daily patterns are, how predictable your emotions are, what you miss, what you love, what you hate, and how easy it is to guess that for people because the same shit gets to us, or matters to us. Anyway, so she introduces him to this big fish in the form of Ezra Grindle, played by Stephen Jenkins, who's this really bad guy who has this kind of hazy history that you don't know exactly what he's done, but you know that it's bad. And apparently, what he had done, Bradley Cooper had found out by kind of breaking into his file because Kate Blanchett drew a line in the sand or whatever, is that he had forced his mistress to have an abortion or a miscarriage, something like that. I don't remember the exact detail. I've only seen the movie once, and it was within the last day or two. Yeah, it was either it was actually I can look at it right now. Okay. His lover Dory died of a forced abortion. So there we go. So there's the answer. And through the sketches, again, Draw Me Like Your French Girls, it is funny how all of the characters in movies are really good artists. But yeah, they come to find out that she may bear resemblance to Rooney Mara. So Bradley Cooper gets this great idea to pull this one last grift to get their big payday. It's like a heist movie, but it's for a charlatan. And it backfires. It goes the way that you don't think. And that's where I think that's where the real hard R rating comes from. Obviously, there was a little bit of nudity early on in the movie with Bradley Cooper and Toni Collette. But otherwise, there really was not a lot of violence or not a language, except for the last third, the very last act of the movie, with this gruesome, dark red blood that, I think because there was mostly no violence in the majority of the movie, that when it hits, it's super impactful and feels real because it's such a grounded world building, building up to it. So yeah, it fails because Stephen Jenkins does not pray with his eyes closed like Bradley Cooper assumed would happen because he's so overly confident and thinks he can predict everybody, that the plan backfires and he has to beat Stephen Jenkins to death and then run over his bodyguard, which was the guy who was in Mindhunter and Fight Club, who's a really good actor as well. And yeah, so after that, Rooney Mara leaves, and Bradley Cooper, being chased, has to get on a train. And the second he laid on the floor of that train, I predicted the ending. I knew he was going to end up a geek. I knew that was going to happen. But I also appreciated how the movie didn't just jump cut to that, even though it probably assumes that. It still finished the journey. It showed a natural, realistic way that it could happen. Showing the passage of time, showing the beard growing out, getting dirtier, getting more and more desperate, getting more and more addicted to the alcohol that he's took up again because of his overconfidence and hubris involved around the Kate Blanchett character. Yeah, Just so great. And then, so yeah, that ending scene when it's an extreme close up of Bradley Cooper's face and Tim Blake Nelson tells him, I've got a job for you. It's temporary, just like Willem Dafoe told him in the beginning. Again, the structure of the movie I loved because it's setups and payoffs and it's character building and plot progression in ways that are hard to anticipate, but the rules are all there. Like the rules of good filmmaking are there, but they're all bent slightly to give you something a little new. That's really all you can ask for these days. So the extreme close up of Bradley Cooper's face where he starts, smile crying and he says, "Mister, I was born for it." Like that image is going to stick with me like probably forever as long as I'm in this life because it just was like, oh my God. Because there's so many things that you can take away from that. Like, my interpretation of that ending of "I was born for it," which he was laughing and crying because he's an aware person and he sees the irony of his fate because of where he's been, where he started, and where things have ended up. Like he senses the irony in and of itself and how he's kind of failed himself. But I think he says the line "I was born for it" because even though he refused to drink alcohol, always did what he was told when he was paid, used his charisma for profit, and he did everything you could do to try to turn a bad life into a good life, and he still failed. His ego got the best of him. His the alcohol dependence that ran through his family that started with his dad and why he wouldn't drink it got the best of him. And everything that he thought he could outsmart and outdo because he was better than everybody else backfired and failed him. So when he says "I was born for it," I think he means he accepts that no matter where or when in life, this is how it was always going to end because he was, always going to, I guess, kind of fail himself and succumb to his weaknesses. So I loved this movie. I loved pretty much everything about it, and I'm actually looking forward to rewatching it, even though it's a character piece. I don't usually rewatch character pieces because once you've learned and known the characters and kind of see what happens, there's not really that big kind of set piece moment, that action sequence, that big plot twist that you kind of want to rewatch in like, an Inception or a Sixth Sense or a Jurassic Park or a Steven Spielberg movie. There was not a lot of like, and then this happened and then this happened. It just was like, first half of the movie, learning who the characters are. Second half of the movie, putting these believable characters in a heightened dramatic situation and now showing a movie with that. So it's kind of two movies in one. Really interesting. Anyway, what did you think of Nightmare Alley? I'm very curious. Comment if you're listening to this early on Patreon. Comment and let me know if you're watching this on YouTube. Comment if you're listening to this on iTunes or Spotify. Email me NoTrailersAllowed@gmail.com. If you do comment publicly, please no spoilers. And if you discuss spoilers, give a healthy spoiler warning. I take that stuff very seriously. That is going to do it for this episode of No Trailers Allowed. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find more episodes on my website, superjersh.com. You can get this podcast early and ad-free by supporting me on patreon.com/superjersh. You can see the video version of this podcast on my main YouTube channel now, youtube.com/superjersh. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram @superjersh if you'd like. To email me and be a part of the show with your questions, comments, or suggestions, the email address once again is notrailersallowed@gmail.com. I do also have a gaming channel where I stream games and post gaming videos on youtube.com/jershplays. I'm also on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram, all @jershplays as well. Like the podcast where you watch or listen, subscribe, review, do anything that you can to help. I really appreciate it. The internet is a very crowded place. As always, thank you for listening or watching. Until next time.